Hi guys, gnembon here and welcome to 32nd episode of Fun Farms. Half a stack behind us, another half a stack ahead of us, I guess, at least. Today a little bit of a low-key episode, but from time to time it's important to realize that in some circumstances overkill is really an overkill and going simple is much more than enough for 99.99% of players. Plus, it turns out that even in this rather simple setup, there's enough details that needed to be ironed out, which makes for a really exciting Fun Farms episode. So today, we'll be using a new feature in 1.16 that got reintroduced to the game after a long hiatus, which is when an entity is going through the end portal, the end obsidian platform, as well as 3 layers of air above it, regenerate. The reason for it is simple. Since the game is not searching for any good spot to place a teleporting entity, it needs to make sure that there's a safe place to land, hence removing all potentially suffocating blocks, as well as providing a safe platform to land on. In the few previous versions of the game, this platform would regenerate only when a player enters the end, but now it has been changed for all entities. This means that we can just keep sending entities to the end and let the players sit here and keep breaking blocks AFK, which they can then collect over here. So our setup actually starts in an end portal in a stronghold. Since we'll be sending items from here to the end, this area needs to stay loaded, and because we need a player to be in the end to break the obsidian, for that we should either have another player over here or just chunk load this area. And since chunk loading is officially a thing from 1.14, that's what I've done over here. So this one is an item-based chunk loader. I can even give you a link to a tutorial I made for this one. It's a very reliable design. It's not affected by any random aspects like random pigment spawning in portal blocks or dropper randomness that can break other types of chunk loaders. It's not that its reliability is super crucial in here. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is to just stop farming obsidian, but this shouldn't even happen with this chunk loading anyways. Since in the nether part we'll be always sending items back to the overworld, control of the chunk loader is on the stronghold side. So I made this little alteration here, replacing just the bottom simple comparator detector with a proper clock, which makes sure that no items will be able to get stuck in the nether part of the chunk loader. So even if you close your world in a really bad moment, you will never need to even to take care of the nether part of the chunk loader at least. For the details about this chunk loading method, please refer to my previous video on the topic, which I'll put in the description. So in the overworld, we need to flick this lever and that would cycle this item back and forth to keep the overworld and the nether loaded in a 3x3 area around this portal. This means that we don't need to worry about the exact portal location in terms of the chunks it is in. As long as the rest of our setup is within the 3x3 area of chunks around this chunk loader, you should be fine, and they all should be fully loaded. So above the portal we have our item dropper. Now I'm using here eggs, but you don't have to. You can just bring your own items and put it in a double chest, and the double chest should run you about 9 hours, so this should be plenty. But for a fully automatic setup, and without you need of keeping in mind to bring you the items every time you want to use it, you need to breed here 36 chicken if you want to break an obsidian with efficiency 5 picks and no haste effects, so no beacon, or 48 chicken with full speed, so diamond pick, efficiency 5 and haste 2. In terms of the speed of the clock over here to drop the items to the end, it all depends on the number of obsidian blocks you want to break at once. In this case we need to drop an item a little bit over every 190 ticks with haste effect and 255 ticks without it. So given imperfect dropping of items through the dropper, we need 16 items in this etho hopper clock for a non-haste setup, giving 260 tick cycles, so giving us 5 ticks of leeway, or 13 items for 196 ticks with case 2, giving us 6 ticks of leeway. Alternatively, instead of using a hopper clock, you can use a comparator fade-out clock with 7 comparators for roughly the same effect. Choice is yours. It doesn't matter. So, with the dropper running, dropping items to the end, and the chunk loader in place, our job in the overworld is done, and the rest needs to be done in the end. So in the end, the player will be standing in one place, mining 5 blocks of the platform, which will regenerate right after they would mine the 5th block. In this case, I'm using the settings and the delays for the setup with the haste 2 beacon. That would yield about 1850 obsidian per hour, or 1400 if we just used the pickaxes without beacon. The reason we have this extra order over here, despite having hoppers below, is that it's still possible for an item to pop up to the top when mined and land on the platform. This wouldn't be that big of a deal, this doesn't happen that often, but when this happens, the new obsidian blocks that player mine would keep stacking up to the previous one that stays on top, and we were losing more and more items. Anyway, so after entering the end and verifying that the eggs are still popping up, so the chunkloading setup is still running in the stronghold, we need to go here to the side, go down here, and just start mining the obsidian. And after 5th block, we should be getting new ones to pop in right in their place. To AFK for longer, we need to put some food in the offhand, press right click and left mouse buttons, right for eating and left for mining, and while they are pressed we just need to disconnect the mouse. That's probably the simplest method of keeping the game running while having buttons pressed and doing actions for you. One thing to note, while player hunger will be depleting extremely slowly due to mining, it still does it a little bit. I did some longer tests with dried kelp, one of the crappiest food in the game, and got about 1 hour of AFK time for one dried kelp, meaning something like a cooked steak will run you for a day. Not even an in-game day, in the real life day. So a stack of chops in your offhand will be like 2 months, so nothing to worry about. So while food is not a problem, pickaxes are. You can technically add some crazy setup to this farm like we did with our ice farm to replenish almost used pickaxes for the new ones, which makes 100% sense in farms like the ice farm where you tear through them and then you need chest upon chest of the end product to make something useful at the end. But in case of obsidian, it's fine. One pickaxe with Unbreaking 3, which you can buy from villagers for almost nothing, will give you almost 2 double chests of obsidian and last for 7 hours of AFK. So that's why I put here this little contraption that would cycle pickaxes, replacing them within reach of the player, so every time you run out of a pickaxe you can just pick a new one. That's actually one of the reasons we are using here hoppers instead of just a simple water streams, because otherwise player after breaking their pickaxe would have picked an obsidian, but a hopper here guarantees that no obsidian block should get into a grabbable contact with the player. And yes, you technically don't need a player to break blocks, you can just technically trap a wither here and it breaks block automatically. This would also mean that you can just spam items going through the end portal, since wither breaks blocks pretty much instantly. But not only that would be a super dangerous thing to do, prone to user errors as well as glitches with entities that happen in this game from time to time, plus wither is not technically intended to be trapped in blocks that it can break. But the main reason I'm not even thinking about using a wither here is that obsidian is not a block that's pleasant to work with or have some unique qualities as a building material, so unlike things like glass, bricks, concrete, we don't need a lot of it, and manual breaking setup like this one is way more sufficient. So in this case we can run this really neat and really clean setup that works even in peaceful, works in multiplayer without affecting other players using the end, which is pretty cool. So that would be our quote-unquote the complicated setup. It means that's actually super easy to build. I would personally recommend setting up this one, but you can actually go even smaller with that. So check this out. First of all, not just items can go through portals, projectiles can do as well. Unfortunately, my testing with snowballs and snow golems turned out negative. They break off when they touch the portal blocks without going through, but arrows don't. So that's why we have here a skeleton, which is positioned half a block lower than the floor of the stronghold. It's trapped and it's named, and also here spawned and fenced an iron golem. It's 1 block above the floor of the stronghold for a change. Skeleton sees the golem, skeleton shoots the golem, and an arrow in the end ends up... That was the end of the sentence. This whole thing obviously needs to be chunk loaded exactly the same way as the previous setup did. It's kind of out of the question. And this would be a little harder to build than just a clock with a chest of items or a bunch of chicken. So I didn't promise you a tiny design to be easier to set up, but in terms of the overall part, that's it. It's a very clean setup, isn't it? Now going to the end, we need to be a little bit careful because of, yeah. Actually, you can use it even to maybe prank your friends, just have some random arrows spew up from the end platform. That'll be pretty cool. But also, those arrows are all in all also causing to refresh the end platform. But the cool thing about it is that the frequency of a skeleton shooting at their targets coincides quite well with the speed of a player mining an obsidian block with a haste 2 and efficiency 5. So in the end, the only thing we really need is just a hopper below, some place to stand, and just keep mining. That's really all you need. And on this note, it's time to end. Two very simple setups you can use to help player mine large amounts of obsidian, while you can use that time to have some sleep, or maybe have some work done, or just chillax and do something else, while obsidian flows into our pockets. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, don't forget to leave me a like, leave me a comment in the comment section below, and see you in the next one. Bye bye!